I can't believe you're getting married, Emma. I never thought you'd be able to afford something like this.
Well, I worked hard and saved up for it. And what do you think you're doing here?
Spare me the sob story. I remember how poor your family was in high school. You still look as pathetic as you did back then.
Excuse me?
What? Did you forget who you are already? You're destined to live a low life. This wedding must have cost a fortune. I bet you're in debt up to your eyeballs.
Go home, Olivia. You are not welcome here.
You don't talk to me like that. You think you're better than everyone now that you have all of this?
Olivia, this is my wedding. I'll say it again. You are not welcome here.
What if I don't leave? What are you going to do about it?
Don't test me. What would you do if your bully shows up at your own wedding? My name is Emma, and I first met my bully Olivia when we were in high school. It soon became clear that Olivia was not interested in being friends with me. In fact, she seemed to actively dislike me, and I couldn't understand why. It wasn't until I started doing well in school that I realized what was going on. Olivia was incredibly competitive, and she was jealous of me for my good grades. She had always struggled in school, and it seemed like she resented me for doing well. She would make snide comments about my grades and try to downplay my achievements in front of others. Despite the difficulties I faced with Olivia, there was one bright spot in my high school experience: my friendship with Nick. Nick was an amazing friend who had such a brilliant sense of humor and charisma. But he struggled in subjects like maths and science. He was always worried about being held back, so when he asked me to tutor him, I gladly agreed. I spent hours with Nick going over problems and explaining concepts until they finally clicked for him. It was rewarding to see him improve, not just in his grades, but in his confidence as well. He started to believe in himself more and more, and it was a joy to see him succeed. However, Olivia didn't seem to be happy about that. I knew she was jealous of our friendship, but I wouldn't let that affect me. Unfortunately, my life took a turn for the worse during my senior year of high school. My family's business went bankrupt, and we were suddenly faced with countless financial problems. I tried my best to keep up with schoolwork and extracurricular activities, but the constant stress was taking its toll. To make matters worse, Olivia started to bully me even more. She would make up stories about me to turn my friends against me, and she seemed to take pleasure in my struggles. She even told everyone that my family business failed because my parents were dealing illegal goods. That was completely untrue. I was already feeling stressed out, and Olivia's behaviors made my life even more miserable. I didn't know how to make it stop, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of problems. Nick was one of the few people who stayed supportive of me through everything. He tried his best to cheer me up, but my life got so hard that my family finally decided to move away. It was a difficult decision, but we knew that we needed a fresh start and a chance to rebuild our lives. Leaving my hometown and my friends was tough, but I was determined not to give up. Even though I couldn't afford to go to college like my classmates, I wasn't going to let that stop me from pursuing my dreams. I started working odd jobs like housekeeping or waitressing and tried to save up as much money as I could. With so much going on in my life, I unfortunately lost contact with all my high school friends, including Nick. It was getting lonely, but at that point, all I cared about was my goals. I came to dream of something bigger. I wanted to run my own hotel chains one day. It was a lofty goal, but I was determined to make it happen. I saved up every penny I could and eventually had enough to go to college. I was even lucky enough to earn a good scholarship to help with the costs. I worked hard and got really good grades, knowing that my education was the key to achieving my dreams. I was also lucky enough to secure an internship at a fancy hotel, where I learned firsthand what it takes to run a successful establishment. I soaked up everything I could about hospitality management, from guest services to marketing strategies. One day, while working at the hotel, I was surprised to see a familiar figure walk through the door. I couldn't believe what I saw as he approached the receptionist and mentioned my name. "Hi, is there an Emma working here? Emma Thompson?" "Nick? Is that you?" Nick turned around, and as soon as his eyes met mine, they were filled with joy. He gave me a warm hug and exclaimed, "Emma, it's really you. I can't believe you're really here." "Yeah, how did you even find me?" "Ever since we lost contact, I have been wondering where you and your family went. And then I just heard from a friend that they saw someone who looked exactly like you. And yeah, I went to find you as soon as I could." "Oh, Nick, I'm so sorry. Life has been so crazy. I didn't even realize how much time has passed since we last talked." "No, don't be. I understand. I'm just glad we get to meet finally." "Yeah, me too. Do you want to grab coffee sometime?" I would love that. It had been years since we had last seen each other, and I was thrilled to see him again. We quickly caught up on everything that had happened in our lives since we had last spoken. Soon after, we started going out, and everything just felt so right with him. It was as if Nick was the missing piece that made my life so much fuller. I didn't even realize how much more joyful I could have been before Nick came along. He was living in another city at that point, but the distance felt like such a small setback compared to the love and understanding we shared for each other. We would text and call each other every day and talk about the silliest things in the world. Every month, he would fly to my city to spend quality time with me, and sometimes I would fly to his. Fortunately, both of our careers were going really well, so we could afford going to visit each other quite often. For the first time in my life, it felt like everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. Before long, Nick proposed to me. We planned a beautiful wedding and were so excited to start our new life together as husband and wife. But there was one surprise that I wasn't expecting. It turned out that Nick was actually the son of the hotel chain owner. I was shocked, but also grateful that I had never known this before. I had worked hard to achieve success on my own, and I knew that my relationship with Nick was based on our love for each other, not on his family's wealth or influence. And so, Nick finally moved to my city and we started planning our wonderful life together. When we were working on the guest list for the wedding, we agreed to exclude Olivia. She was nothing but mean to me back in high school, so we both agreed that we didn't want her there. It felt like something was lifted off my chest when we made that decision together. I knew that we hadn't seen her for such a long time, and she could have become a different person. But it was the most important day of my life, and I didn't want to risk it. Just when I thought everything was going perfectly, something unexpected happened. It turned out that through our high school group of friends, Olivia found out that Nick and I were getting married. She texted Nick on his social media and congratulated him on tying the knots in such a friendly celebrity way. He politely said thanks, but in my gut, I felt like something was wrong. Nick tried to comfort me, and I wanted to let it go. But the anxiety lingered for a long time, and soon I'd find out that my gut feeling was right. Olivia wasn't happy for us at all. On the day of our beautiful wedding, Olivia showed up uninvited. To make matters worse, she was in a white revealing mini dress, and it quickly became clear that she wanted the attention to be all on her. She approached Nick and acted really nice and sweet, grabbing his arms as if she was actually the bride. Nick was going to push her away, but I didn't want to make a scene. I politely asked to speak to her in private and pulled her to the back. She began to show her true colors almost right away.
I can't believe you're getting married, Emma. I never thought you'd be able to afford something like this.
Well, I worked hard and saved up for it. And what do you think you're doing here?
Spare me the sob story. I remember how poor your family was in high school. You still look as pathetic as you did back then.
Excuse me?
What? Did you forget who you are already? You're destined to live a low life. This wedding must have cost a fortune. I bet you're in debt up to your eyeballs.
Go home, Olivia. You are not welcome here.
You don't talk to me like that. You think you're better than everyone now that you have all of this?
Olivia, this is my wedding. I'll say it again. You are not welcome here.
What if I don't leave? What are you going to do about it?
Don't test me. Olivia gave me the most disturbing smile as she raised a glass of red wine in her hand. Before I could make out what she was planning to do, she slowly poured all the wine onto her beautiful mini dress. She didn't even stop there. As she reached to pull her hair so strongly, the whole hairstyle was ruined. Then, to my utter surprise, she raised her hand and slapped herself on the right cheek. I was still in shock when she let out the loudest, most screeching scream. She immediately ran outside with her hands on her cheek, as if she was heard by someone else. Everything happened so quickly that I didn't have enough time to think or react. The only thing that I could do was to run after her. She was already crying in front of everyone at my wedding party.
Help! Help! I'm bullied by the bride. I'm so sorry, Emma. It's not my fault that Nick still has feelings for me.
Olivia was sobbing so loudly that everyone was shocked. They stopped whatever they were doing just to figure out what was happening. Nobody knew what to do, so they only stared at her. At that point, Olivia had already run toward Nick, hugging his arms like a baby. Nick, please help me. Emma is so mean to me. I don't know what to do. I was so angry at Olivia's dirty tricks, I had to hold back the urge to run toward her and grab her hair for real. The only reason I wasn't taking any action was because I knew Nick had got my back. I could trust him with my life. So I knew he would somehow figure out a way to deal with this she-devil. She messed with the wrong people, and exactly like I expected, just when Olivia thought Nick was going to comfort her, he gave her the coldest reaction. Get the hell off me! Nick quickly pushed her away, and Olivia was so stunned she literally stopped sobbing. She didn't think a nice guy like Nick could treat her like that. Do you realize you're ruining the most important day of someone's life? Nick's voice was loud and angry. Everyone went silent, but I could tell that they felt bad for Olivia. The poor woman did look like she was bullied, not the other way around. But it was almost as if Nick could read their minds because just a few seconds later, a camera footage was shown on the big screen for everyone to see. People were so surprised, even amused, while Olivia was visibly horrified. On the big screen, she could see herself pouring wine on her own dress, ruining her own hair, and slapping her own face. She panicked and looked around just to see how many people were witnessing her dirty tricks uncovered. No, this is not me. I mean, it was just a prank. Yes, I was just pranking them. Olivia, you are not welcome here. You bullied me throughout my high school years. I was going to forgive you if you had realized what you have done. But you chose this for yourself. How did... Emma, it was just a joke. I was just joking. She looked around again and saw that nobody believed her. Little did she know that Nick had prepared cameras all over the wedding venue to make sure we were safe at all time. We would never expect her to pull such tricks, but we were surely prepared for every situation. Olivia was so embarrassed, she quickly ran outside. I was relieved that this was all over, but quite upset that she ruined our wedding. Nick gave me the longest, warmest embrace when he told me that he would make it up for me and that there's nothing to worry about. And make it up for me he did. Nick and his family ended up suing Olivia for ruining our special day, and she had to pay thousands of dollars in damages. It was a difficult situation, but it felt good to know that justice had been served. Despite the challenges we faced, Nick and I remained committed to each other and our dreams. We decided to get married again, this time on a secluded island where we could focus on each other and our love without any distractions. It was a beautiful and intimate ceremony, and it felt like we were truly starting our new life together. Now, we are running the hotel chain together, and we are stronger than ever. We have faced challenges and overcome them, and we know that we can handle anything that comes our way. We are grateful for each other and for the love and support of our family and friends. And we are more than excited to see what the future holds for us as we continue to build our dreams together.
Mom, why are you so cruel to Shane?
I told you I never liked her and I never will.
She is my wife of 6 years, and for the past 6 years, you have never been good to her.
So now you are going to disrespect me just to protect your worthless wife? She is nothing but a pain in the ass and a freeloader.
That is not true. You know very well that Shane works hard for the family.
Don't you ever defend that girl in front of me, Lloyd. I'm your mother, and you must obey me at all times. Now, if you have to choose between me and her, who is it?
Mom, please. This is too much already. She is my wife, and you're my mother. You must make peace with each other.
Never. My mother-in-law walked out and shut the door loudly. My husband ran immediately to help me as I was lying on the floor after my mother-in-law pushed me to the ground after a heated argument earlier. The root cause of our disagreement was very petty. After I folded my husband's laundry, I went inside our closet room to place his clothes. But as my mother-in-law saw me doing it, she went hysterical because she was the one who washed the clothes and she doesn't want me to touch my husband's clothes. She even slapped me and disarranged the clothes that I just folded. Aside from that, she kept on calling me names such as useless, stupid, and fake. She kept on telling me about this narrative that I'm only doing these things to make myself good in front of my husband. What is wrong with her? Lloyd is my husband, and it is my responsibility to serve him and this family. Ever since I married my husband, I never had the authority to decide in this house. She has always been the final decision maker. Whenever my husband and I fight, she always got in the way, and every time there is a conflict within our relationship, she always insists that the both of us should part our ways. She has been cruel to me since day one. My husband helped me get up. He hugged me and assured me that this will never happen again. Despite my mother-in-law's verbal and physical abuse, I am still thankful to my husband for being my confidant and protector. He defends me every time he has the chance. However, I don't want him to have a bad relationship with his mother. That's why I always encouraged him to be the bigger person and just understand his mother's dilemmas. That night, as we were having dinner, my mother-in-law acted like nothing happened. She kept on talking nicely to my husband and son, but ignored me as if I was not present. She talked to my husband as if they did not have a major argument earlier. I can say that this family setup is not healthy, not just for me, but also for my husband and son. Later that night, we were about to sleep. My husband told me about his 3-day business trip in the States. As much as he wanted both my son and me to come with him, it was impossible. He checked up on me if I'm going to be okay being alone with his mom for the next 3 days. I told him that I will keep my head strong and try my best not to get into another fight with her. He promised me that he will be back soon, and he also assured me that he will talk to his mother before he goes. Deep inside, I'm anxious for the next 3 days. I cannot guarantee that my mother-in-law and I can have a peaceful and harmonious 3 days because she always finds something to pick on me. In short, There is no day that she won't scold, insult, and abuse me. But I wanted to be strong for my family and myself. As long as I can, I will understand her and humble myself. I chose to be the better one. The next day, I woke up early to prepare for my husband's food for his trip. As I came down to the kitchen, I saw my mother in law already preparing my husband's meal. I was about to get my utensils because I wanted to prepare food for my son as well. But she stopped me by grabbing my arm. She was holding me so tightly that I could feel my arms bruising. She looked at me with blazing eyes and warned me, "Don't you dare lay your hands on the food that I prepared. I'm going to cook food for my family."
Your family? Bold of you to assume that this is your family. This is my family. You are nothing but an outsider.
I'm married to your son, and I'm the mother of your grandson. This makes me a member of this family.
So you are going to cook my son and grandson's food? You're a show-off. Get back to where you come from and never come back. I'm the only one who has the right to serve my family. My son and grandson are mine. Get out of here, loser.
You don't have to dictate me with everything that I... She slapped me in the face.
I am your mother-in-law. You should talk to me with respect.
Respect? Bold of her to utter that word. She can't even give that word to me. It's too easy and natural for her to harass, insult, and abuse me. I really want to fight a case against her, but I'm thinking about my husband and son. I don't want them to be put in a position where they have to see us fight over a thing that can be resolved with the word respect. I cannot take this anymore. This is complete nonsense. Talking to my mother-in-law is like talking to a toddler. Every word she says is so hard to comprehend and understand. It doesn't make sense. She's so possessive of my husband and son. I don't have the freedom to decide for my family because she is here. She wanted to be relevant and involved all the time. I left the kitchen and went back to our room. I don't have enough energy to fight her nonsense battles. Later that day, my husband finally boarded the plane. He was finally out for his 3-day business trip, and I knew this was also the start of my hardship. The next morning, my mother-in-law came knocking on my bedroom door, and the moment I opened it, she threw a bundle of cash in my face. She told me to be useful and instructed me to pay the house insurance. I had no choice but to follow her orders, so I did. After I dropped my son off at his school, I called my office assistant and told her that I will be late because I will be paying our house insurance. And as I was on my way to the insurance company, I saw someone familiar on the streets, a girl being mistreated. The old woman was grabbing her hair, and the girl was trying to pull away, but the old woman slapped her. I pulled up my car and went out to help the girl, but as soon as I came nearer, I finally saw the girl's face. It was Jenny, my elementary best friend.
I will show you. I gave you enough time to pay your rent. 5 months is too long. Pay it now or I will kick you out.
Please, I'm struggling financially. I will pay for it once I can find a part-time job. Please give me another month. I promise you. I have given you enough time. I am done with you. She grabbed Jenny's hair and pushed her down to the floor. I could only imagine how Jenny was able to reach the sidewalk because the apartment was a little far from the spot. I bet the old lady dragged her here. I approached her and the old woman stopped beating her. Jenny recognized me and she turned wide as if she saw her escape. She ran towards me and hugged me so much. She whispered to me, "Please, help me." I understood her body language, so I immediately confronted the old lady. I asked her what was going on. I can feel Jenny's body shaking, and her hands are trembling as she holds my arm to maintain her balance. The old lady explained what the commotion was all about. She told me that Jenny's debt was already 5 months due. The old lady was very eager to have the money already, but Jenny kept on telling her that her salary got delayed for almost 5 months now. Jenny was persistent in asking for consideration about her rent because the delay was out of her control, but the old lady was very persistent in getting the money. Jenny has always been consistent in paying the bills. That's why she was very certain that she can cover up the entire 5 months of bills. On top of that, Jenny insisted on paying part of the rent just to cover the large rent. Nonetheless, the old woman wanted Jenny out of her apartment right away. She harassed her and threw out all of her belongings. Jenny begged mercifully, but she kept on beating her. This was the scene that I saw earlier. I can hear Jenny's heavy sobs as she was hiding behind my back. My heart breaks for her. I can still remember how she has been so kind and protective of me during my elementary years when I was always bullied. She was the one who defended me. She was the only one that stood up for me during those times. That is why I wanted to help her and stood up for her. I talked to the old woman and told her that I will pay her bills. Good thing I have cash with me, the money that I'm supposed to pay for her house's insurance. I gave it to the old woman, hence her anger died and allowed Jenny to return to her unit. Jenny was so happy and thankful for what I did. I couldn't count how many times she thanked me and cried every time she uttered the words "thank you." I was so happy that I was able to give back the kindness she has showed me in the past. After that incident, I went back to her car and drove straight to our office. My heart was filled with joy as I recalled my encounter with my old classmate and that I was able to help her. Afterwards, I became preoccupied with work. I was so busy entertaining clients and meeting deadlines, I even went home late that day. That's why, when I was driving my car back home, I realized my big mistake. I forgot to pay for the house insurance. I was supposed to go to the bank and withdraw some money because I gave the cash to Jenny's landlady. I parked along the street and contemplated my carelessness. Why did I forget to pay for it? I could feel my hands tremble as I could already foresee my mother-in-law's anger. But I have no choice but to go home. As soon as I came home, my mother-in-law's mad facial expression was the first thing I noticed. She's so angry that she threw the book that she was reading at me. Good thing I was able to dodge it. "You stupid girl! You only had one job, and that is to pay for your house insurance. What did you do to the money? You used it for yourself? How dare you? You're a piece of shit. Now come here and I'll teach you a lesson." Please, let me just explain. She grabbed my hand and hair by force. It hurt as she was pulling it hard. She pinned me to the wall and grabbed my phone as well as my wallet and threw it away. "The insurance company contacted me and they said that they didn't receive the money. If someone has to be homeless, it should be you. Get out of here."
I became preoccupied with work, and I wasn't able to pay for the insurance. It is my fault. I take full responsibility. Oh no, it's too late. You will be thrown away from this house, and don't you ever dare to come back. She dragged me to her car and pushed me in. She drove it very fast and far from our house. I insisted on going, but she threatened me. She pulled up in the city's downtown and dropped me like I was some kind of garbage. She left me there with nothing. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening. The downtown streets were so empty and the ambience felt so unsafe. As soon as she drove away, I started to panic. I have no phone or money. How am I supposed to contact my husband? What will happen to my son? I started to cry and find some help, but there was nothing. Until I remembered Jenny. Her apartment is not far from here, so I decided to walk to her unit and ask for help. I'm sure that she will help me, just the way I helped her earlier. The walk took me 30 minutes, but I was so thankful because I was able to reach her house safe and sound. I instantly went to her unit and knocked on the door. She was so shocked when she saw me in tears and filled with sweat. She asked me what was wrong, and I told her about my mother-in-law's cruelty. All of it. She let me in and offered me new clothes and even food to eat. Also, she lent me her phone so that I could contact my husband. But I didn't contact my husband. Instead, I contacted the owner of the house insurance, who happens to be my godfather. I tried to call him many times until finally he answered. As soon as he recognized that it was me, the concern in his tone became evident. I told him that I was not able to pay for the house insurance today, and he just laughed at me, saying that there is nothing to worry about because the company always has this 5 days of deadline extension to all their clients. Aside from that, I also told him about my mother-in-law's abuses and mistreatment of me. And as my godfather and the best friend of my father, he promised that he will help me. He orchestrated a plan that will help me take revenge against my mother-in-law. My godfather took immediate action. He used his connections and influence to help me. The next day, my mother-in-law was out on a date with her friends. I knew this because she always does this every Friday. It was a perfect time for us. That's why my godfather deployed some of his logistics staff to secure the house and assist in apprehending my mother-in-law. The logistics staff circled the house. My godfather and I wanted my mother-in-law to feel intimidated, as if they were going to claim the house. But my godfather has another plan. He also contacted police officers that would arrest Rita for all her abuses towards me. I informed my husband about everything, and he decided to teach her mother a lesson. My godfather and I went to our house to fetch my son and wait for my mother-in-law to come home. As my mother-in-law arrived home, she was confronted by a locked house and a heavy police presence. I saw how overwhelmed she was with shock and regret. She came near one of the logistics staff and started shouting at him, "Who the hell are you? And why are you here in my house? And what is this nonsense? Why are there police officers here?"
Ma'am, I'm here to claim the house. You have failed to pay for the insurance on yesterday's due.
Shane, that stupid and worthless girl, this is all her fault. I want to kill her. She brings nothing but misfortune and annoyance. I saw her dialing my number as we were hiding behind the front door. and when my phone rang, she heard it. She looked around to look for the sound, so I went out. She was so shocked when she saw me coming out of the house. The moment she saw me and my godfather, she realized the consequences of her trashy attitude and rash treatment towards me. I can see the confusion in her eyes. "What is the meaning of this?" "It means you are already kicked out of this house." She smirked and even chuckled. "Oh, you're brave now because what? You have all these people?" I handed the police officer all the evidence of her mistreatment and abuse, and when she realized what I did, she came near me begging for everything that she had done. The officer started to approach her. That's why she panicked. "Please, Shane, forgive me. I don't want to be in jail. I am so sorry. I will not do it again." "I am sorry, but you have to learn your lesson." After that, my mother-in-law was ultimately arrested, facing the repercussions of her actions. "Is there anything I could help you with?" "Oh, sorry. I was just admiring your minivan. It looks so stylish. Is that your brother?"
Oh, hi there.
"No, that's my husband." "Oh, you certainly look much younger than that." "Excuse me? What are your names?"
I'm Jim, and this is Camilla.
"Jim, huh? I like the sound of it." "Sorry? Is there anything you need here? We're trying to rest." "I'm just a bit curious, Do you have some time to tell me about this cool lifestyle you're having?" Actually, we're trying to take a nap. Would you mind?" "Jim, what are you up to?"
He is also... Actually, it wouldn't hurt to talk to her just for a few minutes. We do have a cool lifestyle.
"Awesome. Want to grab a coffee? We could leave Camilla here while she's taking a nap."
Cool. See you later, babe.
My name is Camilla, and I was married to my husband Jim for almost 2 decades. We were both in our 50s, and we had decided not to have any children. Instead, we are focusing on investing more in our careers and hobbies. It was a tough decision to make, but we both agreed that we wanted to travel and see the world. We wanted to pursue our dreams and passion without any limitations or responsibilities, and became quite successful in our respective careers. That year, Jim and I were finally able to achieve our biggest dream, to retire and travel the country together. We had worked hard all our lives, saved up enough money, sold our house, and bought a minivan to explore new places. It was such a big change, but we were both excited about what the future held for us. Our first stop was Yellowstone National Park, and it was breathtaking. We spent hours hiking through the mountains, watching geyser erupts, and admiring the wildlife. We felt free and alive, and we knew that we had made the right choice. Our journey took us to many beautiful places, including the Grand Canyon, Mount Rushmore, and the Rocky Mountains. We met new people and heard stories, and we learned so much about the different cultures and traditions in America. We also tried out different activities like fishing, kayaking, and even bungee jumping. We made so many memories together, and I felt grateful for every moment we spent together. However, as much as everything sounded awesome, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. As soon as we hit the road, we started to get into all kinds of conflicts.
Jim seemed to have lost his enthusiasm for the trip and refused to help with the maintenance of the van. I ended up taking on all the responsibilities, which was exhausting and frustrating. I tried to talk to him about it, but he just brushed me off and said that he deserved to relax and enjoy the trip. Things got worse when Jim started to waste money on unnecessary things. He would buy expensive souvenirs and lavish meals, even though we had agreed to stick to a budget. I tried to reason with him and remind him of our financial goals, but he refused to listen. It was incredibly stressful, and I felt like I was shouldering all the responsibilities while he got to enjoy the trip without any worries. To make sure we could maintain that lifestyle, I decided to start a travel account online and share our experiences. I created a blog where I wrote about our adventures, the places we visited, and the people we met. I also started an Instagram page where I posted photos and stories from our trips. To my surprise, my channel started to gain worldwide popularity, and a lot of people reached out to ask for advice. They would ask about the best places to eat, the most beautiful sights to see, and the best ways to save money while traveling. I was overjoyed that so many people were finding my content helpful and inspiring. However, Jim started to get really jealous. He would accuse me of spending too much time on my blog and not enough time with him. He would get upset when I would take photos or write posts instead of going out there and really experiencing the adventures, in his words. I tried to explain to him that this was something I was passionate about and that it was helping us maintain our lifestyle. But he just couldn't understand. He went as far as accusing me of trying to betray him with men I met online. That was completely untrue. I had never even considered being unfaithful to him. I tried to tell myself that was just something he said when he was angry, so that I could look past it. Little did I know, things only got worse from there. One day, as we were parked in town to fill our gas, a college girl walked by and got curious about our minivan. "Is there anything I could help you with?" "Oh, sorry, I was just admiring your minivan. It looks so stylish. Is that your brother?"
Hi there.
"No, that's my husband."
Oh, you certainly look much younger than that.
"Excuse me?"
What are your names?"
I'm Jim, and this is Camilla.
"Jim, huh? I like the sound of it."
Sorry, is there anything you need here? We are trying to rest.
Oh, I'm just a bit curious, you know. Do you have some time to tell me about this cool lifestyle you're having?
Actually, we're trying to take a nap. Would you mind?
Jim, what are you up to?
He is also...
Actually, it wouldn't hurt to talk to her for just a few minutes. We do have a cool lifestyle.
Awesome. Want to grab a coffee? We could leave Camilla here while she's taking her nap.
Cool. See you later, babe.
As I watched them two walk away, I couldn't help but notice how they were flirting with each other. He was being overly friendly, laughing at her jokes and complimenting her on her looks. I felt a pang of jealousy and insecurity, but I tried not to let it show. When I brought it up with Jim, he denied it. One day, when I was checking the footage in my camera, I realized that I had accidentally turned it on and left it recording the back of our minivan for 6 hours. Jim had told me that he was going to watch a basketball match while I went out with some of my friends in the region, so nobody was there to turn it off. I was looking through the footage, trying to see if there is anything interesting, when I noticed something strange. I was taken aback by the sound of Jim and another young girl. I stared at the screen to realize that He didn't go to any basketball match, but brought a girl back to our minivan. I couldn't see anything because the camera was under some blankets, but I could hear the sounds of them having fun with each other. It broke my heart, and I couldn't help but think of how much all the other times that Jim might have cheated on me that I didn't know of. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and seeing. Jim's infidelity shattered my trust in him, and I felt like my whole world was falling apart. It didn't help that I had suspected something was going on for a while, but I had ignored my intuition and tried to make things work. I knew that I needed to make a decision about what to do next, but it was just so hard. I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to process my emotions and figure out my next steps. I could never look at Jim the same way anymore, but I acted like everything was normal. I just made up more excuses to be out of our minivan more often, just so I could be away from him and have some space to myself. Jim didn't even care. He didn't ask twice about my whereabouts, which pained me even more. But that was my last straw, realizing that the man I had cared for so deeply did not deserve my love and devotion. After a few days, I realized that I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay anymore. I made up my mind and came up with the perfect revenge plan. On the last day of our stay in the town, I purposefully parked our minivan in a very secluded spot, telling Jim that I just wanted to watch the stars there that night. Then I also told him that I was going out that afternoon. I knew that Jim wouldn't miss the golden opportunity to hook up with that girl one last time. It was a risky plan, but I was determined to find out the truth. I waited for what felt like forever because I was feeling anxious and scared about what I might find. But just less than an hour in, my worst fears were confirmed. Jim was inviting someone inside, and as soon as I got a closer look, I realized that she was the college girl we met that day. They were so reckless that they were throwing their clothes out of the minivan. Then, I watched as they were kissing and touching each other, completely oblivious to my presence. I felt sick to my stomach, but I knew that my chance to get the revenge I had waited for was there. I secretly gathered all of the clothes that Jim and the woman had taken off and then slammed the door shut right in front of them. They were too stunned to react at first, but then they started banging on the door, demanding to be let out. Of course, I had already locked it. After leaving Jim and his mistress stranded in the back of our minivan, I hopped in the driver's seat and drove straight to Jim's parents' house. The trip was almost 20 minutes, during which they were constantly banging on the door. I could hear their muffled voices and pounding fists in the background, but I tried my best to ignore them. I was determined to get Jim's parents' house and tell them everything. When I finally made it to the house, I called Jim's parents out and then unlocked the door. His parents saw their son in that minivan naked together with his mistress. To make matters worse, she really looked like she could be of their granddaughter's age. They were shocked, and I could see the hurt and disappointment in their eyes. As Jim's dad started screaming at him and questioning his audacity to do such a terrible thing, his mom began sobbing. Jim and his young mistress was so embarrassed they collapsed on the floor of the van. I felt a pang of sympathy for Jim's parents, but I knew that they deserved to know the truth. Without the concrete proof, they would never have believed that Jim could do such a terrible thing. I mean, even I couldn't believe in my eyes at first. so I wouldn't blame them if they don't. I knew that Jim had a great relationship with his parents, and ruining this for him would probably be the cruelest thing I could do. But let me be the bad guy for once, after so many years of being forgiving, compromising, and loving to him for nothing. After that, I gave the college girl a blanket and asked her to find her way to the nearest police station herself. She was filled with embarrassment, but she didn't dare to ask me for a decent piece of clothing. For someone who had intentionally seduced a married man, she was almost too shy to be believable. She lowered her head as much as she could and couldn't even look at me straight in the eyes. But I couldn't care less about her. I was already too generous in letting her go without making her pay for the consequences. Just the walk of shame from my in-laws' place to the police station should be enough to teach her a lesson. Jim's parents and I sat down in the living room to talk through what had happened, while we left him outside in the minivan. I explained everything to them, from the affair to my decision to end things with Jim. They listened patiently, offering me their support and understanding. During the whole conversation, I could still hear Jim's cries and screamed as he accused me of being a calculating witch. But that meant nothing to me. I gave him everything he had ever wanted, and he ruined it for both of us. Now he couldn't even realize that it was all his fault. It was time for me to walk away. There was no going back from the betrayal and hurt that he had caused me. So I filed for divorce and claimed all of our joint property. It was a difficult process, but I knew that it was the right decision for me. Jim's parents had to call me multiple times to apologize on his behalf because I had blocked his number. They were ashamed of their son's action and wanted to make things right. I appreciated their apology, but I also knew that it wouldn't change anything. I was done with Jim and his lies. I told them that I wished them health and peace, but I would not talk to anyone in their family again. Despite the pain and heartbreak that I had gone through, I refused to let it define me. I continued to upload content on my social media, sharing my travels and experiences with others. Soon, I had created a network of travelers for myself, exchanging tips and stories with people from all over the world. I discovered that there was a whole community of people out there who shared my passion for adventure and exploration. They inspired me to keep pushing myself, to keep seeking out new experiences and challenges. And slowly but surely, I began to heal from the pain of my broken marriage. Looking back, I realized that the end of my relationship with Jim was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. It was a painful and difficult experience, but it also gave me the courage to pursue my dreams and follow my heart. I learned to trust myself and my instincts, and to never settle for less than I deserve. I'm living my best life right now, and I'm loving every minute of it. My mother and I are very close. She raised me alone because my father left us when I was a kid. I always look up to her because for me, she's a definition of a real-life superhero. I have seen her work day and night just to support my dreams. She sacrificed so much for me that even if there is nothing left for her, she is more than willing to give everything to me. This is how much she loves me. And I could say that we don't have a fortunate and comfortable life. I could remember how we used to go to different places. After all, we always got kicked out of our apartments because we couldn't pay rent on time. I admit that there are times that I blamed everything on my mother. I would shout at her and rebel at times because I couldn't understand the weight of the situation. And I guess that it is pretty normal for someone to act that way during that age. And I'm so fortunate to have a mother who is patient and understanding. She let me understand the situation and mold me to become resilient and hopeful despite our situation. I could also remember how many people mistreated me. There are times when we reached out for help, but instead of assistance, they gave us side eyes and insults. We were judged, and my mother couldn't even have a permanent job. She would work as a fast food crew, laundry girl, garbage lady, lawn mower, and even a babysitter. It breaks my heart to see her suffer like this, all because life wasn't even in our favor. We were born into an unfortunate life pushed below the poverty line. But that doesn't stop me from reaching my dreams. To dream of a better life for me and my mother. So my mother and I worked hard to get me enrolled in a prestigious school, and because I was witty and pretty smart, I got accepted into the university through a scholarship program. I was able to enter a university that provided a quality education. I worked hard to earn my degree and graduate with flying colors, because in this way I can make my mother proud and it can bring us out of poverty. I believe that education was the gate that opened me to so many opportunities and possibilities. As soon as I finished college, I made a mark in the university as one of the best students, and they hired me to become an instructor. I was fortunate to have an instant career opportunity right after college. I teach history at my university, and just less than a year I was given a promotion. I was able to set my foot high in the field of academia. I was known for my methods of teaching and even for my research studies. Through this, I was able to give my mother our very own house, and that made her happy. And for me, that was the most precious thing I did for her. On top of that, I met the love of my life when I was teaching at the university. I met John, my husband and co-teacher. We dated for almost 2 years until we decided to get married. We were deeply in love with each other, and while I was enjoying my married life, I didn't forget to spoil my mother with all the things she deserves as well. I took her on many travels and let her experience the things we weren't able to experience when I was young. My love for her runs deep, and by the time John and I were able to build a family of 3, it is where everything went downhill. I thought I had everything: a loving family, my mother, my own house, car, career, and business. It was one fine morning, and I was out for a lecture at the university when our maid, Tara, contacted me. It feels like my life jumped out of my grasp when she called me and told me the most devastating news. "Hello? Yes, Tara, what is it?" "I'm so sorry to call you this urgent, ma'am, but your mother collapsed and went unconscious. I already called the ambulance and they're on their way." I almost dropped my phone. My heart was beating so fast. My mind floats. I can't afford to lose my mother this early. I hung up and immediately dismissed my class. I hurriedly went to the hospital, and there I saw my mother being rushed to the operating room. I started to panic while staring at my mother being surrounded by doctors. But good thing my husband was with me. He kept me calm and headstrong. But I was so confused as to why he was here earlier than me and why he didn't call me if he was just at home. And I was also so shocked that he and Tara came here together, and that scenario raises an eyebrow. However, it was not the right time to question him about it. I just want to focus my attention and concern on my mother, who is in critical condition. After 4 hours, the doctor came out and talked to me immediately. "Her condition is now stable." I let out the deepest sigh. It feels like all the nervousness went out of my system. Thank God, my mother is now safe. "Thank you so much, doctor. I owe you my mother's life." However, the sorrow on the doctor's face is also quite evident, and it made me feel panicked once again. What's wrong, doctor? Is there something I should know?" I could feel my husband's hands wrapping around my shoulders, giving me comfort. The doctor shook his head, and it made me feel nervous even more. I don't want to hear bad news, but by the looks of it, I think it's worse than that.
Your mother is suffering from a brain tumor. The corrupted cells have been there all along, and a pressure or a fatal injury triggered it. What happened to her before she collapsed? I couldn't breathe because of the diagnosis that the doctor told me. My mother has a tumor? No way, and a fatal injury? I looked at Tara. I'm waiting for her to answer because she's the last person that is with my mother. And she noticed me staring at her, so a slight panic was seen on her face. Then she answered to the doctor's question nervously. She just collapsed. I immediately responded to her, and by the time I got to her spot, she was already laying on the ground unconscious. The doctor nodded, forming a conclusion in their mind. I see. It must have been the fall that triggered it, but we will see to it. We will run tests and examine her condition. For now, she's stable, and let us hope it will stay that way for a fast recovery. The doctor patted my shoulders. Be strong, ma'am. After that, he left us. I feel like my whole world collapsed in front of me. Just as I was achieving my dreams, it also became the time when my mother was suffering from a deadly disease. The months went by, and I focused myself between work and taking care of my mother. I would admit that I didn't have time for my family, especially for my husband, but I was thankful that Tara is with us. She helps us with the household chores and everything. After several therapies and medical sessions, the doctor said that my mother gave no signs of recovery. It seems like her body has already given up on the illness. I broke down every night just by the thought that my mother would be gone anytime soon. I don't want to live in this world without her. I am yet to let her live the life that she truly deserves. But if it's her body that gives up, then there is nothing that I can do. So I asked the doctor if I could take her home and continue her medication there, because if her days are already numbered, then I want to spend it with her in the house that I built for us. Also, as her daughter, I took it upon myself to ensure she received the care and comfort she deserved. So I decided to let her stay at home surrounded by familiar faces and the warmth of our family. And the doctor agreed. My mother has her nurse and caregiver, and the doctor would regularly visit the house to check on her. Despite the pain of her leaving me building up, I never imagined that my life would take such a devastating turn even more. Because as I focused on my mother's well-being, I couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that something was amiss within the walls of our home. My husband John, the person I had once trusted wholeheartedly, had been acting strangely. He seemed distant and preoccupied, often disappearing for hours without explanation. It was as if he was hiding something from me. He's supposed to be the one that was helping me during this tough time, but he is always absent and nearly inconsistent. In short, he changed. He's not the one he used to be anymore, and I'm pretty sure this is all because someone else is in his life. As the days passed, my concerns deepened, and I couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that my husband was having an affair. The signs were subtle at first: an occasional secretive phone call, a hushed conversation whenever I entered the room. Every time I ask him to take care of my mother, he refuses. If I talk about concerns about the household, he doesn't look interested, and he doesn't even talk to me with sense anymore. But the doubts began to consume me, fueling my already heightened emotions amidst my mother's deteriorating health. It feels like my past has been haunting me. The feeling of misfortune and negativities have filled my life once again, the same things I felt during my childhood. But I maintain headstrong. I wanted my mother to see me calm and collected. I have to be strong for her. So despite all the possibilities that my husband is cheating, I disregarded all of it and just focused on my mother and her well-being. I decided to take a leave from the university to dedicate all my time and effort to my mother. Aside from that, I also want to play my role as a wife and mother. I spent most of my days taking care of my mother and running errands. And every time I went out, I would leave a camera on standby to record little moments of my mother.
so that when she left this world, I have something to reminisce about. In an attempt to ensure my mother received proper care while I ran errands, I assigned Tara to assist her. I trusted her and believed she would treat my mother with the utmost respect and compassion. I reassured myself that there was a caretaker and nurse on duty as well, convinced that my mother was in safe hands. But as the days passed, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. There were moments when I would come home and find Tara and my husband engaged in whispered conversations. They have these secret eye contacts that are very flirtatious. Also, they kept on talking, and in fact, my husband would rather talk to her than to me. Their secretive exchanges only intensified my suspicions, and I felt a sense of betrayal cutting through me like a knife. On top of that, my husband's disdain for my mother's presence in our home became increasingly evident. He resented her living with us, always pushing to send her back to the hospital, but I refused to give in. I wanted to be there for my mother, to provide her comfort and care during her remaining days alive. It was a decision that only fueled the growing tension between John and me. Then, one fateful day, I returned home from an errand. I told Tara to look over my mother, but this time the nurse and caregiver were both off duty. And as soon as I got home, my heart was heavy with worry for my mother. As I stepped inside, an eerie silence enveloped the house. The air seemed heavy with foreboding energy, and an inexplicable sense of dread washed over me. I knew something was wrong. Rushing through the house, I searched for any sign of my mother, hoping to find her safe and sound. But when I reached her room, I was met with a sight that shattered my world. My mother lay motionless, her eyes closed, her spirit gone. There were no signs of an attack or any apparent cause of death. It was as if she had simply slipped away. At that moment, grief and anguish consumed me. I shouted and broke down. I cried until I couldn't properly breathe anymore, all the while clutching my dead mother in my bare arms. I cradled my mother's lifeless body, feeling a deep sense of loss that threatened to suffocate me. But beneath the crushing weight of sorrow, a fierce determination ignited within me. I knew deep within my soul that my mother hadn't died naturally. She had been taken from me, stolen by an unforgivable act. In short, she was murdered. Driven by a desperate need for justice, I began piecing together the fragments of the puzzle, determined to find the truth. And then it happened. I stumbled upon a hidden truth that shattered the fragments of trust I had left. I remembered my secret camera. I immediately reviewed the recent footage when everything had transpired. With trembling hands and a mix of fear and anticipation, I pressed play, revealing the sinister truth. The footage showed Tara and John hatching a wicked plan, plotting my mother's demise. Their face twisted with malice, their voices filled with cold-hearted intent. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. The very people I had entrusted with my mother's care had conspired to take her life. The shock and betrayal washed over me like a tidal wave, leaving me breathless and filled with a mixture of anger and sorrow. At that moment, everything fell into place. The secret conversations, the suspicious behavior, the disdain my husband held for my mother. It all made sense now. John and Tara had plotted to remove my mother from the equation, to eliminate the burden she represented to their clandestine affair. And I also realized that maybe Tara hurt my mother. That's why she got injured and was hospitalized. As the weight of the truth settled upon me, I knew I had to make choice. I could crumble under the weight of my pain and let them get away with their heinous act, or I could rise, confront them, and fight for justice. Despite the grief that threatened to consume me, I found strength within myself. I would not let my mother's death be in vain. I vowed to expose their wickedness, bring the truth to light, and ensure they face the consequences of their actions. With the evidence in hand, I confronted them both. How could you? How could you betray me and take away my mother? He just smirked at me.
Your mother was a burden to us. We had our lives to live, May. She was holding us back.
Tara stood next to him, wearing her smug face. Yeah, you were suffocating us with your constant need to play the dutiful daughter. My hands tightened around the evidence that I hold. I spoke to them while my voice was shaking with anger. You think you can just throw away a person's life like that? You have no idea what my mother meant to me. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, presenting the camera footage. Well, guess what? I have proof of your sick plan. I have evidence of your betrayal and cold-heartedness. John and Tara exchanged nervous glances, their arrogance fading away. The air crackled with tension as I laid bare the betrayal, the camera footage serving as an irrefutable witness to their guilt. His face paled, his eyes dirting with a mixture of fear and desperation. He tried to deny it, to conjure up feeble excuses, but I could see the truth etched across his features.
Where did you get that? This means nothing.
It means everything, John. You took away the most precious person in my life, and now you'll pay for it. I reached for my phone and dialed the police. My eyes never left John and Tara. Hello? This is May Thompson. I need to report a murder and provide evidence. Please send the police to my address immediately. Tara tried to grab the phone from my hand, but I stepped back, out of her reach. You can't do this. You have no proof. I smiled with a glimmer of triumph in my eyes. Oh, but I do, Tara. And the police will be here soon to arrest both of you. You'll pay for what you have done. The room falls silent as the weight of my words hanged in the air. Fear and panic begin to take hold of John and Tara.
Mia, please, we can talk about this. We can work something out.
It's too late, John. You made your choice and now you'll face the consequences. The distant sound of sirens grows louder, signaling the approaching police. My determination solidified and I stood tall, ready to face the justice I fought for so hard. But my pursuit of justice didn't end there. I couldn't allow Tara to escape accountability either. I contacted the authorities, sharing the damning evidence I had gathered. The police were taken aback by the revelation, assuring me that they would investigate the matter thoroughly. Days turned into weeks as the investigation unfolded, and then the truth emerged, an intricate web of deceit and betrayal. It wasn't just a simple case of an affair gone wrong. John and Tara were entangled in a larger criminal operation, one that involved fraud and money laundering. My mother's death had become a mere pawn in their sinister game. The police revealed that they had been monitoring John and Tara for some time but lacked the concrete evidence needed to make an arrest. My mother's murder became the key to unlocking a much larger case exposing their involvement in a web of criminal activities. A sense of relief washed over me as the truth was finally revealed to the world. My mother's memory would not be tainted by their wickedness. The police assured me that justice would be served and both John and Tara would face the consequences of their actions. In the aftermath of this harrowing ordeal, I found solace in the love and support of friends and family. Though my heart would forever bear the scars of losing my mother, I knew she would want me to move forward, to embrace life with renewed strength and purpose. I vowed to honor her memory by advocating for justice and ensuring that no other family would suffer at the hands of such treachery. My mother's spirit would guide me, fueling my determination to make a difference and bring light to the darkness. As I stood before her grave, tears mingling with the raindrops, I whispered my final goodbye. The truth had prevailed, and my mother's soul could finally rest in peace. Though the pain would never fully fade, I had found the strength within myself to face a new chapter, forever carrying her love in my heart.
I am Yana, And I have been married to my husband Ted for almost 20 years. Our first few years of marriage were full of bliss. It feels like the both of us were on cloud nine. I truly loved him, I do. He is responsible and has a great provider mindset. For me, marrying him was the best decision of my life. Although the arguments and fighting became significant catalysts of setbacks in our life, I am still grateful that we were able to surpass it all with a loving and robust heart. We have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I couldn't ask for any more excellent gifts in life than my lovely children. They made me whole and they put meaning into my life. They mended and filled the gap between me and my husband when there were times that we would grow apart. We were a loving family and my life was perfect, or so I thought. As years passed by and our kids were growing, so did the hatred and boredom that we felt towards each other. The constant fights became prominent and more aggressive. My husband became so intentional with his banters and insults towards me. In short, our relationship became toxic. And that is when I realized that my life with Ted had never been a fairy tale. I was just so in denial that our relationship was falling apart because it was built on shaky and weak ground to begin with. I was making things up. That we are still happy because I'm too afraid to lose him and allow my children to grow up without their father by their side. And as I assess our relationship right now, the signs of downfall are there. From the beginning, our relationship showed signs of trouble, but I held on, hoping that love would conquer all. As the years passed, though cracks started to appear and the love we once shared turned into bitterness and hurtful words. Aside from that, my husband began to share his remarks of discontentment, boredom, frustration, and disappointment. It seemed like he was trapped with me all this time, and he wanted to get out right away. His banters were more insults than sadness. He hates me so much. It feels like he was forced to stay in the relationship and was suffocating to be exact the whole time. And with that, I endured Ted's hate and hurtful sentiment towards me. I did all I could to maintain a hint of normalcy for the sake of our children. They were all that matters to me, and I did not want to ruin their life. One night, as I prepared for bed, my husband came in with a frustrated aura. I was shocked that he came to our bedroom when it's been 2 years since we last slept together.
Yana, why are my laundry still not in my room?
He shouted, and it startled me. I'm so sorry, honey. I was gardening earlier because the harvest season is coming up. I will do the laundry tomorrow, I promise. He snarled.
Honey, could you stop calling me that pathetic name? Just bring my goddamn laundry in, or I will drag you out of this house.
His words felt like knives attacking me right through my heart. My tears were about to fall, but I controlled it. I'm so sorry. He rolled his eyes and shouted at me again.
You know what? I'm just so tired of this relationship. It feels like we are stuck in a never-ending cycle of the same problems, and I don't know if I can keep going like this. I'm so tired just looking at your goddamn face.
I took a deep breath as my tears finally fell on my cheeks. Ted, I understand things haven't been easy lately, but we can work together. Let's talk about what's bothering you. He just laughed at me in a mocking tone.
Talk? What good will that do? I don't remember you listening anyway. You're stupid. There is no point talking to you.
I do listen, Ted. I want to understand what's bothering you and find a way to improve things. We can't just put our relationship down the drain. That is unfair to our kids. He rolled his eyes again as if everything I said had no sense.
You're always trying to fix everything, but you never actually do anything about it. Oh, I forgot. You don't have to fix everything because you are the problem itself.
It hurts me to hear him say all of these hurtful words. I'm doing my best to make this relationship work, but it takes both of us to put in the effort.
Yeah, well, your best just isn't good enough.
Please, Tell me what's making you so unhappy. I want to know so we can work on it together.
You wouldn't get it. You're too wrapped up in yourself to see how you're driving me away. And like what I have said, you're stupid. So what's the point anyway?
I love you, Ted, and I don't want to push you away. Could you help me understand what I'm doing wrong?
You're suffocating me with your constant neediness and demands. I need space, but you just don't get it.
I'll give you the space you need, Ted, but I can't ignore our problems either. We have to communicate and find a way to reconnect.
Reconnect? Is that some therapy mumbo jumbo? I'm sick of your constant analysis. As if you are helping.
I'm trying to understand your perspective, Ted. I don't want to lose you, but I can't do it alone.
Maybe I'm just tired of trying. Tired of this relationship. Tired of all your nonsense.
I can see you're frustrated, but saying hurtful things won't solve anything. My voice was starting to shake.
You know what? Maybe I'm just done with us. Perhaps it's time to move on.
Please, don't do this. Think about our children.
They're grown-ups now. Maybe I'll finally find someone who understands me.
Please, think about our children, Ted.
Yeah, whatever. Goodbye, Yana.
Don't say that. And then he left me alone. I cried the whole night. I cried as my heart swam into a river of pain. But one day, a few months after our heartbreaking encounter, he dropped the bombshell. He wanted a divorce to marry his young side chick, Annie. The pain was unbearable, but I kept my emotions in check, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break down.
It's over, Yana. I found the love of my life.
You cannot do this to us. This is unfair.
Well, you're no match for her. She is sexy, young, and very pretty. Annie is the perfect woman for me.
He left the house without trying to listen to any word from me again. Our children cried and were devastated as they witnessed our family falling apart. The next day, he sent in divorce papers with a note saying,
"Sign this paper, let me free. Being with you was like being in prison. I have been suffocating all my life. Please give me a break. I want out of your hell life."
Tears fell to my cheeks, and I could feel my heart aching as I witnessed my life's downfall. But before I could even sign the papers, my son showed me a picture of the mistress. It happened that she was my previous employee, and I technically fired her for being flirtatious around the office. I was so shocked at how the world could be this small. So I thought of a revenge plan. I sent back the divorce papers now signed to my husband. I know he wondered why I wasn't being hysterical about the divorce. I kept silent and calm throughout the entire process. Little did he know that I had already discovered the truth about Annie. I confronted her and she confessed that Ted had used her to make me jealous. For a brief moment, I believed her, clinging to the hope that Ted still cared for me in some twisted way. I was still hoping that our family would get back to normal, that our life would be switched back to what it used to be. I was even excited for him to reach out to me and make amends. And as fool as I am, I was ready to accept him back into our life with open arms. But the truth slowly unraveled before me. As I was cleaning my room, my gut urged me to open his computer. I found messages on our one messaging application. Many messages revealed Ted's affair with multiple women, not just Annie. Feeling betrayed and disgusted, I confronted Annie again, and she admitted to knowing about the other woman but had hoped Ted would choose her. You became one of my ex-husband's toys, and you will allow him to use you for what? For hurting me, a woman who's suffering? She sobbed and covered her face with her palms. He told me that he would break up with them, and I'm the one he loves. Everything that comes out from that man's mouth is either lies or insults, and you, girl, you have been completely fooled. She cried and cried until she looked up at me. He promised to me that we will go overseas and live our life as a married couple and that he will leave you and his children for good. He hated you. I hated him more. And you should hate him as well because he lied to you. He manipulated you into thinking that being a mistress is okay. You deserve more than that. She bursted into tears again, so I continued talking. Listen to me, Annie. You are a capable woman, and we both don't deserve that jerk, an asshole. Karma will find its way to him because he deserves to be punished for all the things that he did. Are you with me? She nodded in response. He will pay for this. I am so sorry for the pain that I have caused you. No, you were only a victim. This is all his fault. Let's make him pay. I smirked at her. Oh, darling, we will. In a strange twist of fate, Annie and I found solace in each other's pain. Instead of tearing each other down, we decided to team up and expose Ted for the manipulative liar he was. Together, we devised a plan to reveal his true colors to the world. When Ted confronted me about my seemingly calm reaction to the divorce, I couldn't help but smirk inwardly. With a glint of determination in my eyes, I told him, "Well, I know your lies." His audacity to even show his face in front of me is wild. I don't want to see him again. His baffled expression only fueled my resolve. He was so confused. What do you mean? I just laughed at him, making him wonder even more. Well, you chose to fight me, and I'm so sorry because I'm not a quitter nor a loser. You chose the wrong person, Ted. You will pay for everything. After that, I left him alone. He was dumbfounded. The divorce papers were still being processed. Together, Annie and I decided to expose his trash and dirty ways on social media around innocent girls that he was using. So we posted screenshots of his conversations with other women. The truth spread like wildfire, and soon enough, the web of lies Ted had spun began to crumble. Ted's life unraveled before everyone's eyes. Friends, family, and acquaintances saw his true nature, and the shame and humiliation he felt were palpable. He begged for forgiveness, claiming he had made a terrible mistake and still loved me, but I had seen through his lies, and the wounds he had inflicted on my heart were too deep to mend. I stood firm, my resolve unwavering as I faced the man who had once been my husband. I refused to let him manipulate my emotions again. He went to me and pleaded for his life, a side I never thought I would see. But I'm not the Yana he used to know. I am stronger now.
Yana, I'm so sorry for everything. Could you help me get my life back? Everyone I know is drifting away from me. I can't afford to lose you as well as our children.
You should have thought about that before you decided to leave us with your mistress. You have no shame, and this embarrassment serves you well. He kept on begging me to take down the online post.
I will do better. Please, help me take it down. I'm so sorry. I'm begging you.
With a calm and composed demeanor, I looked him in the eyes and said, Ted, your tears and apologies won't change the past. The trust is broken, and I can't return to a life built on lies. His desperate attempts to win me back fueled my determination to move on. I deserved better than a man who treated me disrespectfully and disregardfully. I realized I didn't need his validation or love to be whole. His actions did not define my worth, and I had finally found the strength to stand on my own. As the truth about Ted's infidelity spread like wildfire on social media, his once charmed life began to crumble before everyone's eyes. The shame and humiliation he felt were palpable, and he was desperate to salvage what was left of his reputation. But this time, I wouldn't let him off the hook. And yet again, Ted sent me countless messages and calls and even showed up at my doorstep, tears streaming down his face as he begged for forgiveness. It just never stops. He claimed he had made a terrible mistake and still loved me. Part of me wanted to believe his words, to take him back and pretend that none of this had ever happened. But deep down, I knew I deserved better. I looked into his eyes, once filled with charm and charisma, and saw a man who had lost himself in a web of lies. He continued to beg, trying to manipulate my emotions, but I saw through his act. I had learned that his words were empty and his promises were were meaningless. I had given him chances before, hoping he would change, but he had repeatedly proven that he was incapable of true love and commitment. As much as I once loved him, I had to put myself first and prioritize my well-being. I couldn't let him drag me down any longer. My heart ached. But I knew walking away was the only path to healing. His humiliation resulted from his actions, and I couldn't allow myself to feel sorry for him. He had caused me immeasurable pain, and now he had to face the consequences. It was time for him to confront the reality of his choices and the hurt he had inflicted not just on me, but also on our children. I focused on my healing, surrounded by a robust support system of friends and family who had lifted me when I needed it the most. I embraced my newfound independence and pursued my passions with a renewed sense of purpose. My children witnessed my strength and courage, learning invaluable lessons about resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of self-love. My decision to leave a toxic relationship and rebuild my life on my terms became an enduring legacy for my family, and so my story became one of triumph over adversity, of finding strength amid heartbreak, and of emerging from the darkness with a newfound light. Ted's action had caused pain, but my resilience turned that pain into a catalyst for growth and transformation. I proved that the most satisfying revenge isn't about inflicting pain on others, but rising above the hurt and becoming a better version of oneself. As the days passed, I focused on rebuilding my life and rediscovering my worth. I surrounded myself with supportive friends and family who reminded me of my strength and resilience. Slowly, the pain started to fade, and I began to find happiness within myself, independent of any relationship. Seeing me move forward and thrive without him only intensified Ted's shame. He had lost control over me, and it was clear that he could no longer manipulate me as he once had. The power dynamic had shifted, and I was now in charge of my life. Realizing that he had lost his wife and reputation weighed heavily on him. The embarrassment of his actions followed him wherever he went, a constant reminder of the consequences of his betrayal. As much as I wanted to see him suffer, I chose not to dwell on his misery. Instead, I channeled my energy into creating a fulfilling life for myself and my children. I focused on my passions, career, and what brought me joy. In time, Ted's presence in my life became a distant memory. I had found closure in knowing that I had stood firm in the face of adversity and had refused to let his actions define me. I had turned the tables on him, and in doing so, I had found my empowerment. My story became one of triumph over heartbreak, of finding inner strength, and of discovering the beauty of self-love. I learned that actual revenge isn't about seeking to humiliate others, but about rising above the pain and becoming a stronger person. And as I moved forward, I knew I was no longer defined by the hurt Ted had caused me. I was Yana, a woman who had weathered the storm and emerged more vital than ever, ready to embrace whatever life had in store for me.